People say grief is a slow, quiet ache, something that dulls with time. But for me, grief sounded like the soft click of my husband's wrench, echoing through the garage long after he was gone. My name is Amina, and this is the story of how a single car became the last surviving heartbeat of the man I loved. For 20 long years, my husband, Faraz, poured his soul into restoring that car. It wasn't just metal and paint to him. It was a memory, a promise, a dream suspended across decades. When we first married, he would talk about it as if it were a living thing, a 1969 classic he'd inherited from his father, who never got the chance to finish working on it. Faraz promised himself one day he would restore it to its full glory. Life, however, has a way of pushing dreams aside. Work, bills, children, responsibilities, everything came first. Yet he never gave up completely. Every few months, he would return to that dusty, half-forgotten project in the garage, tinkering with a part or polishing a small piece, as if reminding himself that dreams don't die as long as you keep touching them. When our son, Zion, was little, he used to stand beside his father in that garage, pretending to help. Those moments were the purest memories I have of them together, my husband passing down patience, wisdom, and quiet strength. But as Zion grew older, he lost interest. Teenagers care more about screens and friends than old engines and grease-stained gloves. Still, Faraz kept going. Every birthday, anniversary, and holiday, he would spend at least an hour on the car. Some years the progress was barely visible, but he never rushed it. A masterpiece takes time, he always said, and the car became exactly that, not just a restored vehicle but a symbol of his persistence, a reflection of the love he infused into the smallest details. When Faraz died 2 years ago, the world suddenly lost its color. I wandered through the house like a shadow. The silence in our bedroom crushed me. The empty side of the bed felt like winter, but the garage still smelled like him. Motor oil, metal, warm coffee, and the faint trace of his cologne. It became the only place where I didn't feel completely alone. Sometimes, I would sit in the driver's seat of that car with my eyes closed, pretending he was still alive, explaining the engine, or teasing me about my terrible parking skills. I would trace the smooth lines of the leather seats he had stitched himself, imagine the way his hands moved along the dashboard, and feel the same mixture of pride and tenderness he felt whenever he talked about it. To some people, grieving through an object might sound strange. But to me, that car wasn't an object. It was a timeline of our marriage, each screw and bolt carrying a decade's worth of memories. It was Faraz's final completed dream, the one thing he managed to finish before life slipped away from him. I kept it untouched, covered with a soft cloth, and visited it every night just to feel close to him. Zion rarely came around the garage anymore. His wife, Sana, always complained that the ugly old car was a waste of space. She didn't understand what it meant, and perhaps she never cared to, but I cared. Deeply. Because in a world that had taken so much from me, that car was the one thing it had left behind. My last connection to Faraz, my last treasure, my last piece of him. I never imagined that someone I loved, my own son, would steal it from me. But that betrayal came later. For now, all I knew was this: as long as that car sat in my garage, my husband's love was still alive. The morning it happened felt strangely quiet, like the world had taken a breath it didn't want to release. I woke up early, the way grief had trained me to: light sleep, heavy thoughts. Usually, I would make tea and walk to the garage before the sun fully rose. It became my routine, my ritual, the one steady rhythm in a life that no longer made sense. But that morning, when I reached for the garage door and pushed it open, the air inside felt wrong, lighter, emptier, hollow. At first, I thought maybe I was still half asleep. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I opened the wrong door, or maybe the light was just playing tricks on me. But no, the truth stood in front of me like a slap. The car, Faraz's car, was gone. The space where it had always sat, shining even under the dim garage bulb, was nothing but bare concrete and the faint outline of where the tires used to rest. The soft cloth cover was thrown carelessly onto the floor like trash. The silence around me felt suffocating. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief, followed by the kind of dread that crawls up your spine and squeezes your heart. I stumbled back, clutching the wall because suddenly my legs felt like water. I called out, "Zayn." My voice cracked. He walked into the hallway, rubbing his eyes, still in his pajamas, looking annoyed, as if I had interrupted his sleep for something petty. "What happened?" he muttered. "That's the car," I whispered. "Where is it? Did you move it?" He blinked once, then shrugged. Oh, that, I sold it. I froze. My ears rang. You what? He rolled his eyes, leaning against the doorway like a bored teenager. Except he was a grown man now, with responsibilities, with a wife, with a life he thought was more important than mine. I sold it, he repeated slower this time, as if speaking to a child. Sana wants to go to Paris. You know how long she's been talking about that trip. The car was just sitting there collecting dust, Mom, so I sold it. Get over it. Get over it. As if he had thrown away an old shoe. As if he had tossed aside a meaningless object. As if he hadn't just ripped away the last piece of my husband's soul. I stared at him, unable to speak. My heart felt like it was crumbling piece by piece. How could you? I finally whispered. It wasn't yours. It was your father's. It meant everything to him, to me. That's the problem, Mom. He snapped suddenly. You're still living in the past. Dad is gone. Let it go. We needed money. And the car was the easiest thing to sell. You should be happy we're doing something nice as a couple. Oh, happy. He thought I should be happy that he sold his father's legacy so his wife could take fancy pictures in Paris. Tears blurred my vision. I reached for the car keys on the hook, only to realize they were gone too. He had taken those as well. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I murmured, more to myself than to him. Oh my God, Mom, he groaned. It's a car. You're being dramatic. He walked away, leaving me alone in the empty garage, with my grief echoing off the bare walls. I sank to the floor, clutching the cloth cover, breathing in the faint scent of Faraz's cologne, still trapped in its folds. I cried until my throat burned. Hours passed. The house stayed painfully silent. Then, just as the light outside began to fade, my phone buzzed. Mom, a man said, his voice urgent. This is Raf from Silverline Classic Motors. You need to come immediately. Why? I asked, barely able to speak. It's about the car, he said. Your husband left something inside. A pause. Mom, you need to come now. And just like that, the emptiness in my heart shifted into something else. Fear. Hope. Something in between. Whatever waited for me at that dealership, I knew it would change everything. The drive to Silverline Classic Motors felt endless, though it was only 30 minutes away. Every turn of the wheel felt heavier than the last. My hands trembled against the steering wheel, and my heartbeat seemed to pulse in my throat. I didn't know what to expect. I only knew that whatever my husband had left behind, whatever message or memory, was something he never told me about in life. When I pulled into the dealership lot, the cold evening wind brushed against my face, snapping me out of my spiraling thoughts. A man in his late 40s rushed toward me the moment I stepped out. Ayouf. The same name from the call. Ma'am Amina, he asked. I nodded, unable to form full words. Please come with me, he said, his expression serious, almost reverent. He led me past rows of polished cars until we reached a private inspection bay. My heart stopped for a moment. The car was there, my husband's car, standing under bright lights as if waiting for me. I felt tears sting my eyes instantly. I convinced the buyer not to move it until you came, Raf said. This car, it wasn't sold like any ordinary vehicle. There was something special about it. My fingers brushed the hood gently. My husband spent 20 years restoring it. It was his life's work. Raf nodded solemnly. And it seems he meant for you to receive something through it. Before I could ask what, he motioned to a mechanic standing nearby. The mechanic approached with a small flashlight and lifted the passenger seat cushion. I gasped. Underneath, hidden so seamlessly I never would have noticed, was a metal latch. We only found it because we were doing a full interior check before transferring ownership, Raf explained. The mechanic pressed gently, and a hidden compartment, no bigger than a shoebox, clicked open. Inside were two things: a sealed envelope with my name written in my husband's handwriting, and a solid metal box, heavy, locked with an old-fashioned keyhole. My breath caught in my chest. I reached forward with shaking hands and picked up the envelope. The handwriting, God, I would have recognized it even in complete darkness. Bold strokes, slightly tilted, full of confidence and warmth. Do you want some privacy? Raf asked gently. I nodded, and both men stepped back. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, yellowed slightly at the edges, as if it had been waiting for years. My husband had dated it 5 months before he died. My love, if you are reading this, it means fate came for me sooner than expected. The words blurred through my tears. I clutched the letter closer. He wrote about how much he loved me, How restoring the car had kept him alive during the hardest days. How he feared the future, not for himself, but for me. Then my eyes hit a line that sent a shiver through my entire body. Everything I have saved, everything I have built, everything I never told you about, it is all for you. The key is in the box. My heart thudded painfully. I stared at the metal box. My hands trembled as I lifted it. It was shockingly heavy. What's inside? I whispered. I looked back at the letter. Only you should know. And only you should decide what to do with it. If something ever happens, protect yourself. Protect our legacy. I trust you more than anyone else. Love forever, Faraz. I pressed the letter against my chest. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I felt his presence, warm, comforting, as if he stood behind me with his hands on my shoulders. But then a realization struck me like lightning. The box was locked, and I didn't have the key, unless my son had taken the car keys, the original set, the keys his father treasured. A chill ran through my body. Did Faraz hide the key on the keychain? Did Zion unknowingly take the key to everything my husband left me? Or worse, did he already find it? I swallowed hard. I wasn't just dealing with grief anymore. I was walking straight into a battle my husband had prepared me for long before he died. And I had no idea what waited on the other side. I drove home from the dealership with the metal box pressed against my lap, as if letting go of it for even a second would make Faraz disappear again. The letter felt warm in my pocket, his final words, his final instructions, his final love. But as soon as I reached my driveway, reality struck me like a cold slap. The key. I didn't have it. And the only person who did was the same person who sold the car, without a heartbeat of remorse. I stepped inside the house to find Zion and Sana lounging on the sofa, laughing at something on their phones. Seeing their comfort, after the devastation they caused, ignited something inside me. Not anger, clarity. A quiet, sharp clarity that settled deep in my bones. Zion looked up lazily. "Mom, why are you back so late? We were thinking of booking the Paris tickets tonight." I ignored him. I walked straight up to him and held out my hand. "Give me the car keys." He frowned. "Why?" "Because they belong to me," I said calmly, calm in a way that made him shift uncomfortably. "The car belonged to your father, not you. And you had no right to sell it." "Oh my God, are we still on that?" He groaned. "Mom." "Move on." Behind him, Sana rolled her eyes and smiled carelessly. "Honestly, Auntie, Paris is more important than some dusty old junk." The junk. The word might as well have been a knife. I took a deep breath. Faraz hid something inside the car. Something important. The dealer called me. I need the keys. For the first time, I saw panic flash across Zion's face. A tiny flicker, but it was enough. "What something?" he asked too quickly. So he did suspect something. Maybe he even searched the car before selling it. Maybe he was hoping there was something valuable inside. I stared into his eyes. A letter. And a locked box. His jaw tightened. Sana sat up straighter. "A box? What kind of box?" "Like expensive." I felt my heart grow cold. "Whatever it is, it doesn't belong to you." He scoffed, trying to regain control. "Even if there is a box, I don't have any key." That was a lie. I could hear it in his voice. I didn't argue. "All right," I said softly. "Then you won't mind if I go to the police." That got his attention. "What?" he snapped. "Why would you?" "Because you stole property that wasn't yours," I said. "And if the contents inside the car were valuable, and believe me, they are, your actions become a criminal offense." His face went pale. Sana's smile vanished instantly. "You're bluffing," she muttered. I walked toward the door. "Am I?" I didn't have to take more than 5 steps before Zion broke. "All right," he shouted. He stumbled toward me, reached into his pocket with trembling hands, and pulled out the entire keychain. "Fine, take it." "God, Mom, you're being so dramatic." I held out my hand silently. He dropped the keys into my palm. Heavy, familiar? My husband's key. The key to everything. I didn't say a word. I simply walked out, got into my car, and locked the doors. Their muffled voices faded behind the glass as I drove away. Not to run, not to hide, but to claim what was mine. Back in the quiet of my bedroom, I placed the metal box on the bed. My fingers shook as I pushed the strange, rusted key into the lock. It clicked open. Inside was a stack of documents. Property papers, investment certificates, bonds, all in my name. Faraz had built a quiet fortune over the years. And at the bottom lay a letter addressed to my son. "Zion, if you ever abandon your mother, if you ever betray her for greed, know that everything you hope to gain will go to her instead, and you will be left with nothing. Love, your father." A sob broke from my throat, not from pain but from a fierce, overwhelming justice. Faraz had known. He had prepared everything. The next morning I moved out, because my husband had secretly bought another one for me years ago, far away from their greed. I changed my will. I cut ties with Zion and Sana completely. They lost everything they expected to gain, and I gained everything I never expected to have. Now, every evening, I sit in the garage of my new home and run my fingers along the restored car, the car my husband built with love and protected even after death. I'm not alone anymore. His love still drives beside me. His revenge lives through me, and his heart still beats in every part of that car.